I never meant to fall in love with someone like her. I was just supposed to fix her gutters. That's it. She lived 3 streets down from my uncle's house, quiet neighborhood, lots of hedges, mailbox flags always up. The kind of place where people wave from their porches but never say much else. He said she was a widow, lived alone, didn't like letting strangers inside. She's picky, he warned. But she tips well. The first time I saw her, she answered the door barefoot, her silver-streaked hair tied back, a loose linen shirt brushing one shoulder. I remember her eyes first, not the color, but the weight. Like she was already tired of whatever I was about to say. "You're early," she muttered, stepping aside. Inside, the house was neat, almost too neat. Like she was always preparing for someone who never showed. There were no photos, just books. Everywhere. On the stairs, in the kitchen, even one on the floor next to a half-drunk glass of red wine. She didn't apologize for it. That's what I noticed most. She made tea. I didn't ask for it, but she just pushed the cup toward me and walked away. Her silence was sharp, but it wasn't cold. It made me want to ask questions, about who she used to be before the soft lines on her face, before the careful way she walked like she was used to being alone. I came back the next day to finish the job. Then again the next week, by accident, I told her, just checking on the paint. She didn't look surprised. I think she knew before I did. One night it rained hard. I saw her porch light flicker from my car and thought of her books, her wine, how quiet that house must have felt with the storm. I parked without thinking and knocked. She opened the door in that same linen shirt, her hair still damp. "You're soaked," she said, her voice lower than usual. "Then, you want to come in?" I followed her in, dripping, heart too loud. She handed me a towel, didn't look at me when she did. I didn't say much. I was scared if I spoke, something would break. Then she said something I still replay when I can't sleep. "People keep asking if I'm your grandmother." I laughed too quickly. She didn't. "I don't care what they think," I said. She looked at me for a long second, and it felt like the silence after a glass breaks, still, sharp, irreversible. Her eyes weren't tired anymore. They were searching. Careful. Then she stepped closer. "Are you sure?" she whispered. I opened my mouth to answer, and that's when the doorbell rang. Neither of us moved. She stared at the door. I watched her hand twitch at her side. Then, quietly, like it wasn't even meant for me, she said, "He wasn't supposed to find me here." She didn't open the door. We just stood there, her staring at the hallway like it held a ghost, me frozen with the towel still clutched in my hands. Outside, the rain softened to a whisper. Whoever it was must have left, because after a long pause, the silence swallowed us again. She sat down on the couch, pulled the towel from my fingers, and folded it neatly beside her. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just said something that made my chest cave in. "Who wasn't supposed to find you?" I asked gently. Her mouth twitched like she was about to answer, but she didn't. Instead, she said, "It doesn't matter." It did matter. I just didn't know how to ask her again without pushing her further away. I found out later from my uncle that she used to be a university professor. Brilliant, a bit removed. Had a son. He died in his 20s. Motorcycle crash. My uncle's voice dipped when he said it. She doesn't talk about him. Ever. Suddenly, all the silences made sense. The way she watched me sometimes when she thought I wasn't looking. Her eyes would soften, just for a second, like she saw someone else standing in my place. I tried to stay away after that. For a week. Maybe 2. I told myself it wasn't real, that I was just reading into things. She was too old. Too quiet. Too wounded. But then I saw her again, at the market, reaching for a pomegranate. She hesitated when she noticed me. Smiled. Not wide, but real. I walked past her, then turned around before I could stop myself. You ever finish that book on the floor? I asked. She looked surprised. Which one? The one next to the wine glass. A pause. That wasn't wine, she said quietly. It was cranberry juice. For my blood pressure. I don't know why, but that made me smile. We started meeting more often, accidentally, at first. I'd help her carry groceries. She'd ask if I wanted coffee. One time, she asked if I'd ever been in love. I said no. She said, "Good. It ruins everything." I wanted to ask what had ruined her. But I didn't. One evening, I helped her rearrange furniture in the living room. As I lifted the couch, I caught her watching me again, same expression, same stillness. I sat beside her afterward, out of breath. That thing's heavier than it looks, I said. She nodded. You remind me of someone. Your son? No, she looked down at her hands. Someone I should have left long before I did. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just let the silence sit. And then she touched my hand. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't sexual. It was just human. Slow, uncertain, like she hadn't touched someone in a long time and wasn't sure if she still knew how. She didn't look at me. But she didn't pull away either. It was a stupid idea to go back that night. I told myself I just wanted to return the book she lent me, the one with coffee stains on page 73 and a note scribbled in the margins, "Don't trust the narrator." But that was a lie. I went back because I wanted to see her again. And part of me thought, maybe tonight would be different. She opened the door slower than usual. Her eyes narrowed. You shouldn't be here. I held up the book. Just returning this. She didn't move. For a moment, I thought she might shut the door in my face. Then a voice called from inside. Who is it? A man's voice. She closed her eyes like the air had just left the room. Then she turned and said, Nobody. Just someone from the maintenance office. Nobody. I'd never hated a word more. When the door closed, it wasn't angry or rushed. It was gentle. Like she didn't want it to hurt. But it did. I stood there for a minute, staring at the wood grain, knuckles aching to knock again. Instead, I left the book on her porch. No note. No explanation. Just left it face down like I'd never meant to be part of her story. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. A few days later, she came to my job. I was working a garden shift at the community center, pruning rose bushes with gloves 2 sizes too big. She stood at the edge of the fence, sunglasses on, lips tight. I shouldn't have lied, she said, not waiting for me to speak. His name's Paul. We used to be something. He's not supposed to be here. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. So why is he here? She paused. Because sometimes we miss the wrong people. I dropped the shears. And what am I? You're the right person at the wrong time. That wasn't good enough. Later that night, I found her walking alone near the park. No makeup, hair pulled into a loose bun, holding that same cranberry juice in a to-go cup. I caught up to her, didn't say anything. Just walked beside her. You make everything hard, she whispered. Then why do you keep letting me in? She didn't answer. We stopped near the bench where her son's name was carved into the wood. She sat, I stood. My hands twitched. The silence pressed in like static. She looked up at me. Do you want to kiss me? I swallowed hard. Yeah. Her voice trembled. Then don't. The wind picked up. Her fingers brushed mine on the bench, brief, hot, gone. We didn't kiss. But something passed between us anyway. Something heavier than skinned. I wasn't supposed to see them together. But I did. I was dropping off supplies at the community event, tables, chairs, all the boring stuff. She didn't know I'd be there. She stood by the food tent, laughing at something Paul said, her hand grazing his arm. It was the first time I'd seen her laugh in public. With someone else. I couldn't move. Not at first. Just watched her from behind the folding chairs, the heat crawling up my neck. I told myself it wasn't jealousy. I had no right to feel that. But it wasn't just him. It was the way she looked when she was with him, like she wasn't holding anything back. She spotted me eventually. Her expression changed fast. She said something quick to Paul and walked toward me, her smile already fading. I didn't know you'd be here, she said. I shrugged. You looked happy. She flinched. It's not what you think. Does he know? I asked. About us? About the bench, about the almost, there is no us, she cut in, too quickly. My heart cracked before I could stop it. Then why do I still feel you in my hands every night? The words hung there, too raw, too exposed. She turned away. Her hands shook as she brushed her hair back. I've done this before, she whispered. The younger man. The scandal. The ending. It never works. You don't understand what it's like when people start to stare. When you start to see yourself through their eyes. I don't care about people. But I do, she snapped, spinning around. I care that I'm old enough to be your mother. I care that if anyone found out, I'd be the villain. Again. Again? I repeated. She hesitated. My son had a friend. Years ago. I didn't mean for it to happen. But it did. And I lost both of them. The silence this time was different. Not stunned, grieving. She took a step back like she was preparing to run. But I reached for her wrist, just lightly. Her skin was warm. Real. You think I don't see you? I said, softer. You think this is some fantasy for me? She looked at my hand, not my face. It has to end. I can't pretend you're just another woman, I said. And you can't pretend I'm just a kid with a crush. We were close. Too close. Her breath was shaky. Her eyes were rimmed with something between guilt and longing. And then she did something that broke the air in two. She leaned in, not all the way. Just enough to test it. Just enough to tempt it. I could feel the question in her breath, the one neither of us had the courage to ask. Then a voice called from behind us. Mom? Mom? The word hit her like a slap. I stepped back instinctively. She turned slowly, eyes wide, like she couldn't believe the voice was real. And standing 10 feet behind us, holding a grocery bag with a bruised apple poking through, was a man who looked exactly like a younger version of her. Her son. I froze. She didn't move. Didn't blink. I thought you were in Colorado, she said finally. I was. I came back to surprise you. He glanced at me, then at her. Clearly. I did. The air felt razor sharp. I could see the questions building behind his eyes. I could also see the realization starting to crack through. Her posture, the distance between us, how she hadn't stepped away fast enough. He looked at me. Who the hell are you? I opened my mouth, then closed it. There was no right answer. I asked him to help with the garden, she said quickly. Too quickly. He's just a volunteer. Her son raised an eyebrow. That why you almost kissed him? The silence was a scream. I'm not doing this here, she said, her voice trembling. She turned to walk inside, but he followed her. I stood in place, unsure whether to leave or step into the fire with her. I chose wrong. I followed. Inside, the house suddenly felt small. Her son threw the grocery bag onto the counter. The apple rolled out and hit the floor. You want to tell me what's going on, he said. It's not what it looks like, she whispered, not even looking at me now. Yes, it is, I said. We didn't plan it, but it's real. And you don't get to judge her for needing someone. Needing someone? Her son laughed bitterly. She needs therapy, not whatever this is. I stepped forward. You don't get to decide what's right for her. He stepped closer too. And you don't know her like I do. That's when she snapped. Stop it. Both of you. Her voice cracked in the middle. You think this is easy for me? You think I don't wake up every day wondering if I've already ruined everything twice? Her son looked stunned. What do you mean, twice? She turned to him, eyes glassy. You remember Ethan? Your friend from undergrad? His face dropped. That was you? She nodded once. And I lost you because of it. He stepped back like the room had become too hot. No. You lost me because you lied. Then he turned to me, jaw clenched. Leave. I'm not going anywhere until she tells me to, I said quietly. She didn't look at either of us. Her voice came low. I need everyone to leave. 3 days. That's how long it had been since she asked us to leave. I hadn't texted. I hadn't called. I couldn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because I wanted to give her space, and also, selfishly, I wanted to see if she would choose me without being asked to. But nothing came. Until today. I was cleaning out the back storeroom at the center when I saw her silhouette through the glass, leaning against the doorframe like she'd run out of strength halfway in. Her coat was too thin for the wind. Her face looked older than I remembered. She stepped in and looked around like she'd never been there before. Then, quietly, I thought you'd hate me. I didn't speak. I just waited. I said I needed everyone to leave because I was terrified, she continued, her voice breaking on the last word. Not of you. Of what I would do if you stayed. Still, I waited. She walked closer, hands shaking. Do you know what it's like to be loved for who you are now? Not for who you used to be. Not for a version you're working hard to shrink back into, but this? She pointed to her face. Her body. Her now. That scares the hell out of me. I stepped closer. Then let it scare you. But don't lie to me to make it easier. I've never been enough, she whispered. Not for my son. Not for Ethan. I always destroy what loves me back. That's not true. She looked up, meeting my eyes for the first time. Isn't it? And that was it, the moment. The one you don't rehearse. The one that leaves no room for anything else. I love you, I said. Her breath caught. You're too young to mean that. Maybe. Or maybe I mean it more than anyone ever has. She sat down hard on the nearest bench. I didn't move. I didn't push. I don't know how this ends, she said softly. I don't know if I'll wake up next week and feel guilty again. Or lonely. Or worse, invisible. I nodded. Then let's not talk about endings. Silence. Then she reached out, hand trembling, palm open. I took it. Not like a movie. Not like a hero. Just like someone who was scared too, but willing. And we sat there, in that echoey storeroom, holding hands like it was the only thing anchoring us to the moment. We didn't talk about Paul. Or her son. Or what tomorrow looked like. But for the first time, she didn't pull away. And for the first time, I didn't need her to promise anything. We just stayed. It's been 6 months since she reached for my hand in that storeroom. We never talked about what we were, not with labels. Not with definitions. What we had didn't belong in a box. It lived in glances and silence, in the way she made coffee a little stronger when I hadn't slept, or how I'd mow her lawn before she ever asked. Paul stopped calling. Her son still won't look me in the eye when we pass each other in town. But she's speaking to him again, slowly, and I've learned not everything can be healed at once. She's letting herself be seen now, not just by me. She joined a local book group, started wearing that navy dress again, The one she used to say made her look like she was trying too hard. She wears it anyway. I think she finally understands that trying isn't something to be ashamed of. Sometimes we sit on that same park bench, the one with her son's name carved into it, and say nothing at all. Just exist. Her hand in mine. Other times, she reads to me essays, poetry, even the unfinished manuscript she wrote 10 years ago and buried under a stack of bills. It's not perfect. We're not perfect. She still flinches when people stare too long. I still question if I'll ever be enough for the life she's already lived. But neither of us runs anymore. Not from the age difference. Not from the past. Not from the risk of being judged. Love, I've learned, isn't always a grand gesture or a burning spark. Sometimes, it's two people brave enough to stay, especially when it would be easier to leave. She once told me, love at my age isn't supposed to feel like this. I asked, what's it supposed to feel like? She smiled. Safe. Boring. Done. And I said, then let's do it wrong. We still haven't said the word forever. But every morning I wake up and see her hair on my pillow, feel her breath warming the space between us, and that's enough. Not because it's all figured out. But because we're still choosing each other. Today. Again. Anyway. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Forbidden love, emotional age gaps, hidden secrets, or something entirely new? Tell us in the comments. Your story could be next. Red Heart.